Hey guys, Rob John Webb here, and what I want to show you today is a breakdown walkthrough of Tensnake's single Body Talk. The track came out a few months ago and is a brilliant mid-tempo groover. It's a really smooth track, and what I've done is I've taken the radio version of it, taken the vocal out, I've extracted it using some software, so there are still some artifacts of vocals in there when you hear me referencing it. So overlook those, obviously. But nevertheless, what I've done is I've broke down the track and I've rebuilt it in a very similar way, using very similar sounds. So I want to give you the opportunity to take those sounds, take the techniques from this and apply them to your own track. So by all means, go ahead, watch the tutorial, and you will see that there's loads of things you can take from this. You know, there's all sorts of cool little bits that you can add to your own productions. Thank you guys, and enjoy the video. Right, now then, the track Body Talk by Tensnake. As you can see, I'm going to play it now. I'm going to briefly play it. I've removed the vocals so we can hear the musical elements, but there's some artifacts still, as you would expect from vocal extraction. And round it goes, basically. It's a very short single, it's a radio edit, so it just basically does that, repeats. But if you listen to it in its entirety with the vocal, you'll realise that the vocal makes up a lot of the track. So obviously when you take the vocal away, you're left with quite a very minimal sounding track, but it is busy. So I've kind of took influence and reference from that so I can show you this kind of style. So as I say, it's set at 112 BPM. And this is what I've come up with. I'm just going to take off the Tensnake and listen to this. And that's it. It's basically those key elements. Obviously, with his track, there's a lot of more things like compressors and saturators and all sorts of crunchiness been put into the mix. And don't forget, it's also been extracted, so it's kind of squashed a little bit. But nevertheless, the feel for it is here, where you can get a good, crisp, clean version by following the steps that I show you using these sounds. So first thing that I did was obviously I worked the chords out of the Tensnake, and that is this. And it's F sharp minor 7, B major, G sharp minor 7, and C sharp minor 7. So I'll show you them now, and you can see the chords. So basically, it doesn't matter what chords you use. I mean, if I was to play this, anyway, now I'll play these chords for you now. So it's like this, look. So it's quite gritty. I mean, the Rhodes that I've used is very gritty. So you can see there, look. But all of these files are available to you anyway. And that's the Rhodes chord, basically. So that's the Whirly. That's the Wurlitzer from Within Ableton. That's the Whirly classic piano. And now what I've done here is to give it that character. So if I take off these two sounds here, look. It's just dead flat. So I put an auto filter on it with some vibrato sort of, give it that wobble. If you're not familiar with that, make sure you put an auto filter on your sound and press the musical notation as you can see there. Change the rate to 1/3 or whatever rate you want, and pull your yellow dial across the screen like that, just so you get that. It's entirely up to you how you want it, but usually about there. Just to give it that little wah 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 wah, you know, and gives it some character. And then I've got a phaser flanger, and I just put a phaser on there. just to give you that grit. Okay, so that was that bit. And then what I've done was, the track itself, if you listen to his track, you can hear that it's got like a Rhodes sort of lead jingling in the background. And it's at this point, let's have a look, here look. Well, there's notes at the top. It's just jingling about with some of the higher notes, like kind of like that. And obviously that's just improvised. And I've done that here. So I've duplicated the electric piano sound, but I've taken off the auto filter so the notes play more clearer. But I've left the phaser on. And if you listen to that, and there you go. I've put just jangled the notes on top. And that's all he's done throughout the whole track. He's just experimented with some of those. You know, so when you're making a track, whatever chords you use, just use the higher notes of that chord. Say, for example, you're in A major. Go up your octaves and just have like... And just have those on top of the chords on a separate channel, so that you've got, you know, that kind of sort of magical sort of sound in there. Okay, so that was that. They're the main elements of the track. They're the main chords, should I say. So obviously the tempo is 112. So what I've done is I've just taken a kick 90s, which is just like that. And then I've got a 70. These are from within Ableton, by the way. So search within your samples. So kick 90s 1 and snare 70s is what I've used. And there's your drum. And then on the hi-hats, I've got this little loop here. It's just like a live hi-hat. So you've got that in there. And then I've got a cabasser in there as well, just a shaker. So, and that's all it is. Very simple drums. If you listen to this track here, look. Just a hi-hat, a shaker, a snare and a kick. And then when it gets to the busy part, still the same. And at that point, it has some shakers that get a little bit more busy, which I'll get to here. Whereas you can see what I've done there, look, with those. So I've added that. So they're just the extra drums that we've put in there. But nevertheless, back to the musical elements. So we've got the drums, we've got the Rhodes, we've got the chords. At this point, where the chords change, here, look. There's a little drum fill in there. And that's exactly what he's done here. So if we get to this point here, look. Tiny one there, there's one there as well. Just a tiny subtle drum fill. And I've done that here like this, look. Just plashed three different snares together. The way to do this, obviously you can get this within this file anyway, look. I've taken 3 different snares here. I've got 4 snares on it, look. Just them different, so 3 different sets. They've got different tones to them. And that's how you're going to get that. And just make a little drum fill up so it sounds like there's different snares playing. And it just gives off that kind of sort of feel. So if we put that on with the drums, you'll hear it a lot clearer. So if I go back, there you go, and then it goes to the next part. It's really effective. So it's always good for transitions to have a drum fill in there, like so. So get 3 snares, live sounding snares for this kind of thing. It's like a real drum kit snare rather than a 909 or something, and do that. Next up, then. Because the chords are in F sharp minor and B major, G sharp and C sharp. So I've taken the root notes of those here. Look, if you look down below, so they're the chords F sharp, B, G sharp and C sharp. So what you do then is you go and get the guitar mute, okay, from within Ableton, right? And that is in the pack. So you can get any muted guitar, doesn't matter where you get it from. Just get a muted guitar like that. Pop that onto the channel, and then you're going to play in the notes what I've just mentioned. Like so. But The first two chords, so here, if I put on the Rhodes, the whirly, double it up, I've kept it the same. I've just kept it on the F sharp because that's what chord we're in. So I've just kept it playing on the F sharp, but I've gone up the octaves and I've just played very simple on off stab notes. So like, and it's really effective if you listen to it. And then at this point it changes. Round it goes. It just follows the chord. And round it goes. It's very, very simple pattern. That's it. Okay, but what you need to do to give it that effect is just to go into Ableton or wherever I use this one, but get a phaser. Make sure you get some sort of phaser. I've already used the phaser from Ableton within that, and you can get that in your pitch and modulation, and choose one of the phasers and just put a phaser on it and just give it some reverb, and it just fills it out nicely. It just makes it phase and flange across. So if you didn't have a phaser on there, it'd just be really flat and boring. So that's what you want for that. So when you use the guitar mute, always put a phaser flanger on it, just so that it moves about and it's really spacey and funky. Very Daft Punk sort of technique, Alan Breaks, that kind of thing. So that's it. You just follow the root notes of the chords, okay? Next up then, we want the bass line. Now this isn't built into Ableton. This is a free VST called the OBXD. Now you can get this free. The link's in the video as well. And what you need to do is choose the synth bass 1 sound. Now what I've done here to get that kind of harsh sort of that harder edge sound, all you do, if you get this synth and you load this up, right, I'm just going to change the sound and then go back to that sound. So if I put a fresh one down here like this, right, and I choose the sound synth bass 1, there, can you hear it now? So it's not quite got the sort of top end that we want. So all you do is go to the filter, turn the resonance up to about 10 o'clock. So you're kind of bringing out that top sort of acidy bit. Otherwise it will sound quite flat. You want that hard sort of... That's what you want for that. So that's all you got to do, is just change the filter resonance of that and just make sure the cutoff's at about 9 o'clock. Probably about 9. Otherwise it'll be like this. It just doesn't have the same effect. So that's what you do with the synth bass to get that early 80s sort of feel to it. So I'm going to remove that now and go back to the original one and turn that up. And there we go. Okay, so next up then, we want the electric bass slap. Now again, I got this from within Ableton. It's just in here, guitar bass and the bass slap. It's that there. You can use any bass slap. And all I've done, if you listen to his track, let's have a look at this. You'll hear it comes in once. It's like a one-off sound. There. Very subtle. There. He uses it once, but what I've done in this track, I've used it on every chord. So listen. There. And it just has an extra sort of layer to it, really. It gives it a lot more funkiness if you have that in there. So the electric bass slap, one off, just do one off. So you play the chord, 1, 2, ba-dang, 2, 3, ba-dang, like that. So it plays just very few notes, but when it does play, it slaps hard. So that's what you want for that. So next up then is the magnetic, which is the string I've used from within Ableton. Just a synth string. And all I've done there is I've just used the root notes again, but higher up. So if you go to the strings, it's a... But I've gone higher up the octave, so... And that's all I've done, just held them down, but the effect it has is simple. So... And there you go. And that's the chorus bit. So we're going to start, I'm going to lay it out in a minute and just show you the similarities of how we do it. Next up then, on top of that chorus bit, you've got the lead line of the Rhodes again. Just simple notes, look. Now, if we was to arrange this, obviously what he's done here, if you listen to his track, his chorus bit drops to 4 kicks in, and it has that drop out, so it's got a kick and a little bit of the Rhodes that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a little tiny reverse kick and back round again. And if you listen to what I've done here, this is exactly very similar. So at this point here is where you would have the Rhodes come in, so it goes, so it drops out like this, look, and back round again. So that's a really cool little technique there. So you want your track to breathe. You don't want it to constantly go round and round and be linear and not have any breaks, so to speak. So in order to do that, you will have a drop out for 4 beats. So 1, 2, 1, then back again. And it just allows the track to go round full circle, and you can start again by bringing in your chords again and your bass, and then your drums, just those things, and then your bass will come back in. So if we was to do that with our version, you just play the Rhodes and the drums, let's have the cabasses in there, and then you would bring in the synth bass here. And then it comes round again for another chorus. But obviously the chorus plays twice. So let's have a look at his version. When you hear those strings coming in here, look. Those high strings. And the shaker. Just a little shaker in there, which I've got here, which is on this bit there, look. So obviously the drums he's used are a lot thicker than what I've done. I've just given you a basic drum pattern to work around. So if we was to look at this track and arrange it, what we would do is quite simple. All we would need to do is I would just move everything over here like this. We would have the Rhodes at the start like that, with that there. We would have just the hi-hats, and I've put in this wind chime just as an extra little sort of thing. Nothing fancy, just something to tickle it over, really. So if we listen to his intro, it's just a little Rhodes and a little sort of synth sound. So we would have the snares, but what he's done is he's put the snares in, and they are high passed. So the high pass beats that he's obviously got the kick in there as well. So what he's done is probably grouped all his drums. So if we group all of the drums together a sec, just for the sake of it, and then on the group channel we can stick an auto filter. Let's have a look at that auto filter, and then change it to a a high pass. Change the key gen to frequency, and then do a basic here. Let's look, bring it right down here. Let's bring this across like that. So ours goes like that. I've gone way too high there. Turn that down a bit. There you go. Put that in again for effect. So you do that and then it comes. And round it goes another time. And then here we go with the chorus. Twice round, then remove the loop, and then the 4 drops, back in. Very simple, very straightforward. And then around it goes. Then we bring everything back in, the guitar and that. And then on the second part, you put the electric bass back in, the slap. And then, back to the chorus. And round it goes, and there you go. And that is pretty much, if you arrange it in that sense, you've got a track 3.5 minutes. And obviously, if you want to do a club version, you've got that as well. So that's it really for this. You can grab this template, you can grab the MIDI files and use it. If you've got Ableton 10, for example, this is done on 11. So if you've got Ableton 10, grab the MIDI files from within the description loop link and add them to your thing and use the same sounds that or find similar sounds within your own DAW, within your own presets and your VSTs and stuff. So that's it really. Any questions, any comments, just let me know, and I'll gladly help you with whatever it is you want. But basically, go ahead and try this sort of style. Obviously, like I say, the drums he's used are totally different to what I've done. So just experiment, but just use a bass drum, a kick, and a snare and a hi-hat. Try and have live sounding drums as much as you can, and some shakers, and that's it. Don't go overboard with the drums. And a little drum fill. Try 3 different snares and play them together. And then your Rhodes and your slap bass and a string. Just simple notes is all you need really. So grab this template, grab the MIDI files, let me know what you think. Cheers, and I'll speak to you soon.